Reforming institutions, I wish to divide it into three parts: Parliament, the judiciary, the center-state relations. On Parliament and parliamentary reforms, I want to talk about reforming that institution. How do we make the Standing Committee and the consultative committees of Parliament more purposeful, engaging, and meaningful? In the past, the deliberations of the Parliamentary Standing Committee have been primarily engaged in scrutinizing legislation. In my view, to take these examinations and make them more purposeful, the standing committees need greater expert advice and domain knowledge. We need to develop this away from the concerned departments who are an interested party. Also, the concerned ministries need to recognize and consider the recommendations of the Standing Committee with greater care and diligence which they deserve. The financial committees of Parliament, namely the Public Accounts Committee, the Estimates Committee, and the Committee on Public Undertakings. The Public Accounts Committee is the oldest committee. In fact, it is older than our Constitution, and the most intrusive arm of parliamentary scrutiny in the working of the executive. I believe that the Public Accounts Committee in recent years has become completely dependent on the audit reports of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. The PSC should therefore go beyond these findings. The CAG needs to act as a friend of the PSC, which it does, a sort of amicus curiae. The deliberations of the PSC need to serve broader objectives. Equally, the Estimates Committee can become more purposeful. I quickly move on now to judicial reforms, the ease of doing business, the speed and tardiness of the litigation process, the resolution of disputes, a mediation mindset than a litigative one, remembering that government is one of the principal litigants, needs deeper action. We need to seek greater cohesiveness between the legislative and the judicial action, fostering the more consensual, time-bound, and predictable arrangements to fill the backlog of vacancies in the senior judiciary. Inculcation of domain knowledge is of importance. Specialization in areas of economic and social policy, on emerging concerns like illustratively on renewable energy, on fossil fuel pricing, and on environmental law. Alternative mechanisms for dispute resolution would be enormously beneficial. I will now talk a little bit about the center-state relations. This time, as you know, the terms of reference of the 15th Finance Commission, which I had the privilege to chair, was rather unusual and somewhat broad-ranging, leaving aside some contentious issues like the date of the census data on population, which the Commission could use. Retrospectively, I find there are a couple of serious issues. In our visit to all the 28 states, one of their complaints was that they have little or no fiscal autonomy left. This is because most of the state taxes have been integrated with the GST through subsumed sovereignty, no doubt with their fullest consent and concurrence. This leaves the state with only some areas which are outside the purview of the GST, namely power, liquor, state duty, and property tax. The GST Council is a continuing entity. The Finance Commission is not. The relationship between the two remains an exceedingly tenuous one. Hence, states' own sources of revenue are subsumed in an entity of which they are undoubtedly a member, but many complained that they have only one vote, which is what the basic principle of the GST Council rightly stipulates. In the light of this, most states pleaded for a more permanent institutional mechanism for a robust consultative process. States also need an entity which can do course correction. If the award which were made by the Finance Commissions are misaligned with subsequent economic developments, which are usually accepted by the central government, then these can either become a bonus or a handicap for the states for a reasonable length of time. These awards can be further complicated by the ongoing deliberations of the GST Council. This is an area where more thought needs to be given than has been done so far. The rise of China today has taken the world by surprise. Since then, our relations with the United States and Japan have become dramatically strengthened, both of whom are now strategic partners and important economic trade partners. All this has culminated in the emergence of Quad, the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, a loose grouping of US, Japan, Australia, and India, a group of like-minded countries who share common values and aspirations. If we therefore look at the altered geopolitical dynamics that exist today, we routinely now say that if our defense forces must prepare for 2.5 theaters of war in the East and in the West, and the half being the other non-conventional types of war, like cyber, technology, and space. The synergy between security and development is inescapable. No country can develop without security, and no security is possible without development. All investment decisions, domestic and foreign, weigh risks, consequences of risks, and depend on the preparedness of nations to mitigate these risks. Investors must be assured that their investment destination is safe. Security is central to our development. One issue that we must address, therefore, is the reprioritization of defense expenditure, which today stands at just 2.1% of the GDP. Defense expenditure over time has been characterized by a higher share of revenue expenditure, huge pension bills, lower capital expenditure with high dependence on import or defense equipment. It has become imperative to review the structure of defense expenditure in order to ensure greater predictability and stability in the devolution of funds. The initiatives taken by the present government are in many ways commendable. Consider the fact that Prime Minister Modi took the initiative for a solar alliance in which he nationally committed a target of reducing emissions by 33 to 35% by 2030. This is in addition to his recent speech on Independence Day, in which climate was given an importance with the setting up of a national hydrogen mission as an important signal for renewable energy, making our largest employer and the largest public sector undertakings, namely the Ministry of Railways, a net zero one has more than symbolic value. But as we move forward, each one of these require very detailed work. Let us say on the transition from a coal economy towards solar and wind, hydrogen, leaving aside the issue of small nuclear plants. We know that fossil fuel will continue to be our dominant energy for some time, even though renewable energies have become increasingly more cost efficient. Moving away from fossil fuel has multiple issues. Which coal mines are we to close? Which are we to phase off? And what does one do with these stranded assets? Moving away to renewable energy would also bring about issues of people who are displaced in the process, their thoughts of livelihood, the new employment patterns, and when we consider the fact that the bulk of these coal mines are located in the poorest parts of this country. Alternative employment patterns we need to work out.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.